Hi, I'm James, and this is a quick tutorial to get you started with the data table and grid plugin from Zeroqode. Let's start by taking a look at the plugin page itself. So as an overview, this plugin allows you to display your Bubble app data in a nicely styled table or a grid with a bunch of options that make the user experience really nice, like search and sorting and checkboxes and associated actions. So from the plugin page here, there are a few things we should look at first. The first is the live demo button. So this will open up a pre-built Bubble app with the plugin installed, and we can experience what this plugin looks and feels like and behaves from a user's point of view. So if we scroll down, we can see we have a table here. We've got some nice hover states. We've got search here that lets us immediately narrow down on data. And then we have a bunch of actions here that relate to the table. So we can download a CSV, we can add a column, we can disable pagination, we can select all checkboxes and deselect all of them and see sort of how this all fits together and works and how it behaves. There's also a second one below here with the HTML or the BB code also applied for extra styling and some nice formatting here on the table. So this lets us see how this feels, looks, behaves from your user's point of view, so you can check to see how this fits within your requirements. If we go back to the plugin page, the second button here is the demo editor. So this is the exact same app that we just saw with the plugin pre-installed and pre-configured, but from the Bubble editor point of view. Now, this is incredibly useful for checking functionality before you install and start configuring it within your own app. We can go in and have a look at every single parameter and property that is associated with each element. We can see how the elements are set up. We can see where the data is coming from and the workflows associated with each of these buttons, as well as all the formatting and styling that we can see how this is styled to match the demo app that we just saw. So have a look at this first and play around with this to see how this fits within your app's requirements. Back on the plugin page here, the documentation link here is incredibly important as well if you're building and investigating this plugin. So this will show all the details, all the tutorials, everything you need to set this plugin up and configure it correctly, as well as explanations of every single field and what it does. If we scroll further down, we can see some actions and workflows and states that are available to us and the events that are also available. So another great resource to check to see what the plugin can do, more advanced implementations, and ways you can customize it and make it work within your app. So while you're building with this plugin, or if you've got a more advanced use case in mind, or if you just like to see how this is set up from the demo point of view and explanations of each workflow and each field and parameter, this is definitely a page to have open in a second tab while you're working. Lastly, on the plugin page here is our intercom button, our support chat button here. If you have any questions at all about this plugin or about any of our plugins, before you install, while you're installing, trying to get it to work and be configured in the way that you need it to work, don't hesitate to send us a message. We would love to help you out. Send us a message here and we'll get right back to you. All right, let's jump into Bubble and see how we can set this up. Okay, we're here in the Bubble editor. The first thing we need to do is get this plugin into our app. So on the left-hand side, jump over to the Plugins tab and then click the top right blue Add Plugins button. And we're going to search for Data Table/Grid. And this is the one here, Data Table/Grid by Zeroqode. Now, there are two options here for installing this plugin. There's a once-off payment or there's the monthly subscription. Now, the monthly subscription is the most risk-free way and the cheapest way to try this out and make sure it works for your requirements and your app's specific configuration, as you're charged on a pro rata basis. So you're only charged for the days that you have the plugin active and installed in your app. For example, if you install the plugin, test it out, and decide it's not quite right for you and you uninstall it a day later, you'll only be charged for that one particular day that it was installed. So for example, $8 a month divided by 30 days. It's very cheap, very risk-free way to try this out before committing further and perhaps doing a larger once-off payment. But whichever way you go to install this, install the plugin, and let's jump over to the editor. Now that we have the plugin installed, let's start building with it. So the first thing on the left in our assets panel, if we search for table, you'll see there's a new element called table/grid. And I'm just going to drag that onto my canvas. I might actually just put a group around that just to make it a little bit of padding and organize things a little bit. There we go. Okay, so we've got padding of 40 all around. Now, this is the element that is going to be our table. This is where we control everything. So selecting that and going to our Appearance tab, we can see a bunch of things we can control and adjust and set up here. So what I'm going to be building with our little demo app here is a table showing invoices. So it could be payments or subscription records for a software company that a user's logging in to see all their previous payments. So if I jump to my app data for a moment, you'll see I have a data type called invoices, and I put a few fields here: the amount, the date, PDF file, the plan that they're on, and the status. And the plan and status are both linking to option sets here. So you can see we have invoice status, paid and overdue, and plans, basic and pro. Now this is very, very minimal just for our demonstration, but just so that we have something to display in our table. And I put two entries here, example entries in our invoice table. So back on our design tab and with the element selected, for the ID data, I'm going to reference that exact data type, those invoices. So I'll say do a search for invoices, and I'll say each item's unique ID for this one. Now, this is where the demo app that I've just jumped back to here gets really useful, because I can see that that's exactly what's been set up here in the demo app from Zeroqode. And if I go to the documentation link here, I can see why we're doing this and why we're linking to the specific IDs. Now, that's something really important to keep in mind as well, is every single one of these has a show documentation button underneath. It gives you a bit more context and information around what is happening in each parameter here. So as we go through with our app, we can make sure we know what we're doing and what each field relates to. And this also links back to the documentation link we saw at the beginning of this video. Okay, so we're linking to the unique IDs of our data type. That's great. Now let's actually put some data to show on the front end of our app. So let's have a look at the structure of this properties panel here. We can see at the top we set up what we just set up, our ID data. Now the table data itself, we have a section for every single column. We can see column 1 with the name, the data type, the source, and then any custom HTML that we want to put in. Then we have column 2 with the same, column 3 with the same, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to 10. And then we can see some table options. So whether we want to enable a fixed header, we have fixed height, a minimum width, and then again, more custom HTML. If we want to enable checkboxes, if we want to enable pagination, sorting, search, all the customization that we saw in the demo app here. Then we have a bunch of style options, which is great to make sure that we can customize this and make sure this fits really seamlessly and natively with the app that we're building. So we have colors and border colors and font colors and padding and all sorts of things you'd expect here. Then we have border radius, more styling, more sorting options, as well as the icons that we want to, if we want to replace the defaults for the sorting icons. And then we have search options, placeholders, previous, next. And then after all of the customization, we have extra columns if we need them. Column 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Great. That all makes sense so far. That's nice and clear. Under that, we have some options to add buttons within each row. And we can have the name of the column that the button lives in, the label on the button, the color of the button, the width, the styling. And we have options for 3 buttons there. And then our standard styling options for any bubble element. Okay, let's go back to the top. Let's start getting some data in here. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to reference data from the page itself. I'm going to put a repeating group on the page. I'm going to turn off fixed number of rows, and I'm going to make this pretty tiny. I'm just going to say 10 and 10. Make this, there we go. Just a small little element here, because I don't actually want it to display on the front end. I just want to reference it with our table. The type of content I'm going to say is our invoices. And for data source, I'll just say do a search for the invoices. We don't have any constraints on here with our simple demo app. All right, so we have our repeating group here on the canvas, nice and small. We can make that as small as we want and hide that. That's really just so that there's data on the page. But over our table itself, in our column 1, I'm going to call this date. And this would be where we display the date of each invoice. So for the type, I'm going to just say text, because I'm just going to print the date itself as text. And the data source is what we just put on the page, this repeating group. So I'll say repeating group invoices, as that's what this element is, repeating group invoices. It's list of invoices. And then I'm going to say each item's date. So we're getting all the list of invoices from this repeating group, showing it in this column 1 for every single item On the list of invoices, we're getting each item's date. But we want to display it as text, so we need to change it to each item formatted as, and let's format it as something nice and readable. Let's say this one here. Okay, great. That's looking good. We now have the data being pulled from this repeating group and put into this table. Let's hit preview and see what we have so far. Just before we jump into it, if you need any help building your app or product, feel free to reach out to our team by visiting our website at zeroqode.com. We're the largest maker of plugins for Bubble, as well as the top gold tier Bubble agency. We have almost 10 years of experience and can help you build any web, mobile, or AI product, or even help automate your business. While you're there, make sure you check out zeroqode.com/plugins. This is the full list of all the plugins we make, and there's like over 700 of them. So there's something there to cover pretty much everything your app could possibly need to do. For example, there's Stripe Marketplace Express. This helps you accept credit card payments on your app. There's Mapbox Maps, and this gives all sorts of maps functionality. This one's really good for saving on Bubble's hosting costs. This is AWS File Uploader, so you can store your files on your own S3 bucket. There's Air Calendar, there's Air Chat and Messaging. There's so many more there, so definitely explore that and check that out. Okay, looking good. We have 2 rows, because there's only 2 entries in our database for the invoices. And we have the date of each one displayed in the formatting that we chose. And if we go to our database, we can see that that's correct. One of these is December 25th, 2024, and one is January the 20th, 2024. And here we go, December 25th and January 20th. Nice. All right, let's look at the second column. Continuing our invoice theme, let's make this the actual amount of the invoice. So we'll put the title of amount as the name of the column. Same thing. I'm going to put the type as text, as we're just going to display the text of the amount. And the data source, again, same thing. Repeating group invoices, list of invoices, each item's, where are we? Amount. There we go. And we're going to say format it as, we'll say it's a currency. We'll put the decimal place at 2 and the separator is that and the thousand. Is that we can format this however we like. And there we go. That should do it. Let's hit preview again. There we are, looking good. We've got the title of amount and we have the 2 figures here. Now, the reason this is all here and works as currency and formatted is if we go to our data types in invoices, I have the amount set to a number. So Bubble knows that the ways we can format a number include currencies. The same thing for the date. The options for formatting were specific to date because we have set our data type as date here when we made the field. Okay, now that we have 2 items in here, let's go through and kind of customize this a little bit more. If we scroll down past all 10 options here, let's see what we can do to make this looking a bit more fresh. Let's turn on checkboxes. We have search enabled. That's good. We want that. What else do we want to do? Let's stretch the search bar to 100% so that it spans the full width of the table. All right, let's have a look. Yep, there we go. Looking good. We have checkboxes that work and are enabled. We have search that spans the whole table, but we're getting a bit cut off here. Let's go back in and fix that. I'm going to turn off, make this element fixed width, and that's going to span the full width of our grid. Let's have a look. I mean, the full width of our group that we put the table in. There we go. That's looking a bit easier to read now. We have the 2 rows. We have the amount, the date. We have the checkboxes that we wanted. We can even search for JAN, January, and it's immediately filtered down to what we're showing there. Awesome. Okay, let's go to the next step. Let's add our user's plan to our column number 3. So we'll say plan. Now the data type here is going to be our option set that I set in our database. So I'll say plans is our data type. As if we go to the database and we're in our invoices, we can see the plan is set to the type of plans. So when we made a new field, we would have set plans here as the field's type. And the reason that's an option is I added it as an option set. I had plans and I put 2 options in here. So now that we're back here in column 3, the name is plan. The data type is plans, pulled from our option sets. The data source, we will again say repeating group invoices, list of invoices. I'll scroll down and say each item's plan. Now, we've got another field that's appeared here, column 3 field. Because an option set has multiple attributes, we can choose what to display here. Now, the only attribute available for my current option set is the actual name of the attribute, or the name of the option set. The display, for example, is it. To see what that is, that would just be this, the name, basic and pro, that is the display. Attributes is the display, the type is text. We could add a new attribute for each option, but I think that's a different tutorial. We won't go into option sets here. So we just want to display the option set's display, which is just the name of the plan. Let's hit preview. Here we go, looking good. Here we go, row 1, the date, we have the amount, and we have the plan itself as the pro plan. Then number 2, the date, the amount, and basic plan. Nice. Let's scroll down again and have a look at some other things we can do here. Because there was a button section down here, wasn't there? There we go. Let's turn on show button 1. What will that button do? Let's say the label could be see more details. And we'll call that, the column name could be more. Let's see what that did for us. There we go. We have a fourth column called more and a button that says see more details. And we can attach a workflow to that to maybe open up a pop-up or a modal that then has information about this particular invoice or plan or payment or whatever it is that our table or grid is doing. And speaking of workflows, let's have a look at some of those now. We've got some data in our table. Things are looking good. What can we do to work with this? So I'm going to add a button onto our canvas here, and I will say download CSV, because I think that's going to be the most useful and common workflow built into this plugin for getting all this data here downloaded into a nice spreadsheet. Let's have a look. If I click on the button and click add workflow, let's see what's available to us. I will search for table to filter down all our actions, and we can see all the actions that are related to our plugin. So what do we have? We can add a column to a table. We can remove a column. We can download a CSV. Oh, that's what we want. We can re-render a table if more data is available. We can remove all the appended columns. We can select all checkboxes at once or deselect all checkboxes at once, or select a specific checkbox in a table. So we know that what we want is download a CSV. All right, what do we have here? With this action, we can specify exactly which table grid to be targeting. We only have one in our demo, so we're just going to keep that as table grid A. And we can specify the file name as well, which is nice. And this is really useful. If we have checkboxes enabled on our table, which we definitely do, we can say to only download the selected rows. So a user might, checkbox this one, click download, and only want that one row and not want the entire table. This will be really useful if you have a very large table with a lot of data. Not so much in our cases, we only have the 2 rows. And we can add a front-end component to this as well to make it clearer and a nicer user experience. Let's have a quick look at that, because that will also show us the states available to us in this plugin. So let's go back to our front end here, and I'll select the button here, and let's add a condition to this. So under the conditional tab, I will say when table grid A, which is our only table grid on here, when table grid A's, where are we? Selected checkbox index list, so the amount of checkboxes that are checked, if its count is greater than 0. So basically, if any checkboxes are checked, if there's more than 0 checkboxes checked, we want to change something. We want to change the label on the button from download CSV to download selected rows. So this should mean this button should say download CSV by default. And if I then check any of the rows, the button text will change to download selected rows. Let's try it out. Okay, we have our table, we got our full width search bar, we have our columns of the date and the amount and the plan and the button says download CSV. Now if I click that, there we go, we have a download, nice. If I click this checkbox though, there we go, the button has changed to download selected rows, and if I click that, it's only going to download this one row here. And we know it's doing that, as in our workflow, we have this checked, only download selected rows. Nice, looking good. We have a table on our page. We're pulling from our database. We've got some buttons on here that we can add workflows to if we're wanting to as well. We're showing off option sets and text data, and we have a download function with a workflow and an action as well. Nice. Now, as you saw on the demo app, there is a lot more that can be done with this, including styling each field using HTML and BB code here. As you can see here, we've got CSS in here and colors and alignment and all sorts of fun stuff that you can do to really customize every single cell and how the data is displayed, as well as sorting and pagination if we're wanting to get into much more in-depth tables. So for more advanced implementations, definitely check out the demo up here, as well as the documentation that will go through every single thing that's possible with the plugin and all the workflows and states and custom configurations and everything to make this as advanced as you'd like it to be. And that's about it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope this is helpful. And if you have any questions at all about this, about pre-installing or while you're installing and configuring, please send us a message. We'd love to help out. Happy building.